What's up, Internet? Welcome to Once Over. I'm Kaylee, and today we're going to be giving the once over to The Hills Have Eyes.
Do you think you could pass out there with the regular folks?
Yeah, beauty. Come here.
What is it?
Come here, girl.
Catherine.
There will be spoilers. The Hills Have Eyes is a horror film directed by Wes Craven, coming out in 1977 and later being remade in 2006. Both versions are known for their intense and disturbing portrayal of a family fighting for survival in the desert. And both versions are super similar. I actually recently reviewed the remake over on Hack the Movies with Tony and Crystal, and I discovered something a little bit disturbing for me, which is that I kind of like the remake better, which I hate to admit because I love Wes Craven so much.
Our pets' heads are falling off!
The movie opens up with the Carter family, Big Bob, his wife Ethel, their three kids, Brenda, Bobby, and Lynn, Lynn's husband, and Lynn and Doug's baby, Catherine. In addition to that, they have a parakeet on their road trip with them, as well as their dogs, Beauty and Beast. With names like Beauty and Beast, we already know that these guys are going to be taking a major part in the plot of this film.
Don't you mind them, they just want to play.
We might as well be having like the love-hate knuckle tattoos that are in Night of the Hunter. The family is on a road trip from their home in Ohio all the way to the big city of LA, and they stop at Fred's Oasis, a gas station, in order to get some supplies. They are, of course, in the middle of the desert, and Fred warns them to stay on the main road. Fred clearly knows more details than he's telling them, but despite this, Bob does not heed Fred's advice, which leads the family into getting startled by aircraft overhead.
All right, everybody, shuts up, that's it! Man alive. We're not on a bomb range, and we're not goddamn lost, and we are Jesus Christ of a crutch, what was that?
And then eventually swerving off the road in order to avoid a rabbit. After this, we get the scene that is perhaps the most controversial of this film, which is Bob giving a little monologue where he uses some not great language.
25 years, I'm a cop in the worst goddamn precinct in Cleveland. I'm even shot at on 2 separate occasions by my own men.
Despite the fact that this movie is brutal and disgusting and really disturbing, this scene might be one of the scenes that gets the most hate, and that's because Bob, again, says some stuff he probably shouldn't say. However, I think that this was really indicative of the times, and Wes Craven is known for doing satire and known for really taking his characters over the edge, so for me, this isn't something that bothered me. I mean, it bothers me, but, you know, it's a movie. I also know that there aren't mutants living in the desert.
Let's just catch it, folks. No.
These scenes immediately after the family runs off the road also give us the first hint about why this movie is maybe not the most polished piece of film in the entire universe. And that's because we get a lot of really kind of awkward dialogue.
Well, Dr. Springer can take his stethoscope and shove it into his little black bag sideways.
But what we also start learning during this sequence is that the 3 generations could not possibly be more delineated. Bob and Ethel are the stereotypical matriarch and patriarch. They are, Bob, again, he's a cop. He is, I can do everything. I am a big, strong man. Ethel falls into her place as a woman, as the wife. But we also learn a lot about the younger generation, Bobby, Brenda, and Lynn. Bobby and Brenda both have this, we're surfer kind of people, and they very much represent consumerism, constantly drinking Coca-Cola and referencing fast food.
We'll be French fries, human French fries. We are not going to be French fries.
They represent consumerism to the extreme, but I think it's really important for us to look at each generation in this family as a separate entity, even though they are all together. One of the strengths of both versions of The Hills Have Eyes is their ability to create a palpable sense of isolation and dread. And we get this because one of the characters truly is the setting. We know this because obviously the movie is called The Hills Have Eyes. But in addition to that, we get to see the vastness and terror that could potentially be lurking just off screen.
Can't seem to remember how this works.
Due to the car crash, the men go off to get help and the women stay behind at the trailer. They stay with Bobby, who is supposed to protect them all, even though he is still very much a teenager.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so stupid.
During this time, Beauty the dog runs off and is savagely killed almost immediately.
What's the matter? You don't like dog anymore?
Bobby is the only person that knows about this death, and he keeps that information private. He does not share it with the women or anybody else in the family. At least not yet. So because of that, at this point, the family is stranded, but they don't necessarily feel threatened. This changes quickly as Bob arrives back at Fred's oasis to try to get help for the broken down car. Bob learns the backstory of Fred's son Jupiter, who killed all of the family livestock and later murdered his sister. In response, Fred beat him with a tire iron and left him for dead.
Back in 29, this place was spanking new. Me and my wife, Martha, had a little baby girl so pretty and good we couldn't believe. And another kid on the way. But when Martha had this one, something went wrong. This thing she give me, something happened. He weighed 20 pounds and was hairy as a monkey. Then in August of 39, and the whole damn house burned to the ground. My little baby girl was a cinder when I found her, but this monster kid wasn't even singed. I hit him with a tire iron and I split his face wide open. So I took him out on the desert and I left him there.
Jupiter, now living in the hills, then abducts a prostitute, an alcoholic prostitute at that, and calls her mama, and the two of them have 3 kids, Mars, Pluto, and Mercury. I think it's really cool that each family dynamic has the 3 kids in it. This is going to be the first of a couple of parallels that we're going to see as the Carters become more and more brutal, and we start to ask ourselves the question, who really is the most depraved? After Fred tells the story to Bob, Jupiter crashes through the window and kills Fred. He then abducts Bob, who later gets crucified and firebombed as a distraction so that the rest of the clan can go break into the trailer where the women are, which results in the parakeet's blood getting drank and the gang stealing baby Catherine.
Baby's fat. You fat. Fat and juicy.
We're reminded in this sequence that in the absence of Big Bob, the younger men think that it is their duty to protect the women, but in doing so, they actually leave the women completely vulnerable. Now, I'm pretty sure that your average road trippers would probably not behave in the same ways that the Carters do if they were going to be attacked by a bunch of mutant cannibals, but the Carters decide to flip the script and become the craziest motherfuckers in the desert.
Get out of the way, bitch!
Pluto is probably the most infamous of the mutants. He's played by Michael Berryman and is very distinctive looking. I think that the character design for all of the Jupiter clan people is great, but Pluto, Michael Berryman just looks so distinct that everybody remembers him. And I also think that it's very telling that at the end of the film, Pluto, just like Big Bob, gets distracted by a bunny, which results in him first giggling and then getting his throat torn out by Beast. So what the hell does the story tell us? Does it leave us any room for hope? Clearly, Craven's message here is that all of humanity is fucked up. Both the Carters, who represent consumerism, and the middle class end up being crazy motherfuckers who are attacking just as much as they are being attacked. And we have the mutants, who are not only monsters, but also a product of nuclear testing. So really, is it their fault? Or is it society that's bad? Towards the end of the film, we find out that it is the younger generation of Carters that prevail. The younger generation is the ones who come up with the plan in order to be able to protect themselves. I think that Craven really cares about the idea of the old generation not necessarily being the future, so he really has that optimism when we look towards the future generations taking over. He certainly likes to delve into the idea of a younger generation dealing with the consequences of their parents, just like he does in Nightmare on Elm Street. However, here, Craven chose a much more unsettling and honest ending. Our final sequence gets to see Doug brutally stabbing Mars. And we finally end with a freeze frame of Doug's face and then fade to red. This film is not just about the physical threats, but more about the psychological terror that this family has to endure and how that impacts their sanity. The mutated antagonists are not just monsters. As I already said, they are a product of those nuclear tests, which adds a huge element of social commentary into this horror film. The Hills Have Eyes is definitely not for the faint of heart. It includes scenes of a lot of violence, gore, animal deaths, which I know nobody likes, and it pushes the boundaries of the horror genre. But for those who do like this genre, The Hills Have Eyes delivers on its promise for terror. So like I mentioned, I recently reviewed the 2006 version of this film over on Hack the Movies, and I was very surprised to learn that I really do think that I like the remake more than the original. Wes Craven is one of my favorite directors, probably my favorite of his films being Last House on the Left, but it turns out that the remake is just stunning. It is terrifying. Every single update that they chose to do was great, and so much of it was brought right over from the original. The two movies are very, very similar, at least up until the end. So that being said, I would rate this movie lower than I would have guessed. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 7 thumbs up. I really would have thought that it would have been higher. If I hadn't just watched the remake, it probably would have been. I hate to make one movie impact another one, but I guess I'm doing it right now, so I don't know. Either way, I loved this movie. I would love to know what you think about it. I would love to know if you liked this one better or the remake better. Please let me know in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching. I can't wait for the next one.